So my name is Roozbeh. I'm VP Engineering at Userlane. I joined about a year and a half ago. The team was still, like the whole company was still less than 50 people. And we have been growing since then amazingly. And it has been quite a wonderful experience. Who am I professionally? Well, I'm a software engineer by trade, and also I learned. I basically got my PhD in building large-scale distributed systems, and worked a bit with the Defense Department back then, but realized that I want to be more like on hands-on work and something that has a commercial or visible value output out there. So then I joined SAP. After a while, wanted to have more challenge. Joined Huawei in a research center building tools. And then basically fortune took me to leading a department at a very early startup or joint venture with Deutsche Telekom and Carl Zeiss, which was quite interesting because we had the power of the two giants behind us. And once the work there was delivered basically to the agreement, I looked for my next position, and this was Userlane. I basically fell in love with the people. Well, empowerment for me is essentially having including the team in the decision-making process and allowing the organization to capitalize on their experience and knowledge. This, in a way, it's not a nice thing to have, at least based on what I learned. It's basically vital for an organization's have the idea of having an engaged team and a very highly performance team. And without it, I found it very difficult, if not impossible, to foster innovation and creativity, which is a bottom-up thing by nature. So basically, once you experience it, you don't want to go back. So that was, in a way, the main learning. And actually, research supports this. If I remember correctly, teams that are empowered are, 3 to 4 times more likely to make faster and better decisions, which is also one of our principles at Userlane. So, but there is also, let's say, there is a bit of a challenge aspect to it. So while it's a concept that many people talk about, or many actually may believe that they are behind it, it's much easier said than done. I can expand on this later because we'll talk about how we do it at Userlane. But in general, it doesn't mean that you're not involved. As a leader, rather you are very much involved. It's just that your role is a bit different. You become an inspiring coach. You try to basically bring up the talent and the capabilities in people, and give the right guidance, but a lot on trusting and enabling, and not making decisions that you think your team should be able to make. And this is a very challenging point because in many cases, especially if you think you have experience, and so it's very easy to want to have the decisions made or to have your decision in the pot. But so it touches a lot on trust as well. But then I would say trust and verify, because at the end, the responsibility is on you as the leader to deliver. So it's about not making the decision, trusting your team about decision, enabling them to make the decision, but at the same time always having this sense of ownership and responsibility on the outcome of what the team is delivering. I think for me, to be very honest, if I'm talking a bit personally about it, it's a lot about caring about the people. So you want also to see them grow. So you have an interest in seeing people having a better life in the future, professionally in this case, and in many cases also personally. And with that, you basically try to find the talent or find the capabilities in people and foster that and help them grow that. At Userlane, for me, it translates to be involved, be of service. This is something that I repeat to myself and also to my team, that as leaders, you're at the service of your team. And to coach and mentor whenever possible. Sometimes time is very limited, so I feel bad about not doing enough. To guide and inspire, but to know how much you need to be involved and how much you need to let people take ownership. And as I mentioned, it's not uneasy. It's easier to talk about it than to actually do it. It's not a switch that you can turn on and say, okay, from tomorrow I'm going to be an empowering leader. You need to learn a lot. You need to experience a lot. There are many things about it. So, for example, culture matters. Also, not everyone expects the same empowerment and ownership, or wants to even have the ownership. So you need to have a sensitivity on the different characters and personalities in the team. Like which one would need more of your support, or even accepting more ownership. Then it's about clarifying expectations on both sides. So in a way, making sure that you know what you're doing and you know what the other person is expecting from you. Defining some rules, because you need to be clear about what is in the scope, who is the decision maker, who is a consultant in any decision making. So, which connects also defining clear roles in your team and in your organization. And as I mentioned before, avoiding the temptation of making decisions on behalf of your team. Because in many cases, based on your experience, you have a clear idea. Yeah, I think we should do it this way, but you should avoid it. And that avoidance of that temptation is very, perhaps at the early stages at least, is very hard for many leaders. And then once you think you have all this, this is not enough, because your team needs the required skill to make the decision and to be empowered. So you need to also coach or help them, or make sure that they have their ways or the methods to acquire those skills. So at Userlane, while trying to grow the organization and going through all the challenges of having a younger startup getting into a, let's say, larger, more mature environment, I've tried to apply many of these, and I've tried to shape engineering into a more autonomous, more mature organization. And actually, I've been quite lucky and fortunate, because my partner, VP Product, is a shining example of an empowering leader. So together, I feel we did a lot, or we can do a lot also still, to build the dream R&D team that we would like to have. It's also linked to the fact that we have really amazing people in Userlane, but also in R&D, I have to say. They are keen to take ownership, to continuously take responsibility and impress us, the rest of us, with the decisions they make, or with the deliveries they have. And then both of us are reporting to our CTO, who is continuously trusting us and empowering us to build the kind of department that we believe we should have at Userlane. So in a way, it's a very special, let's say, place to be for an empowering leader, or for a leader who wants to be empowering. And maybe a last note, that it's a long journey. I mean, one day in your career as a leader, you start with some traditional ways of leading, or you're exposed to the ideas, and as I went through things, you need to learn a lot, you need to capture a lot, you need to also be sensitive about people, different characteristics, expectations, understanding the skill gaps, or hidden capabilities that may not be obvious, but you see that is there, and you need to push a bit for them to flourish. And I've made a lot of mistakes. I will make a lot of mistakes, I'm very sure. But the main point is to continuously move forward, to have the vision in mind, and to go there. And yeah, I think Userlane gave the right opportunity for that so far. Looking at it on based on definition, you want to eventually work in an environment in which your teams, as a leader, are fully empowered to make decisions within the scope of their responsibilities, understand the notion of ownership and their impact, they own the whole package of the responsibility they have and the decisions they make. And they are enabled to find their own talent and grow, and you are basically enabling them, but they feel also enabled. And reach a degree of autonomy, so being like autonomous teams, that they can grow, make decisions in the scope, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you're completely out of the picture, but it means that your involvement is less about interfering with what they are doing, and even probably eventually less verifying or less checking, rather more enabling and empowering. and helping them grow. Because the more they grow in their position in the right way, the more powerful they become. The more powerful they are, the more valuable they are for the business, and they're more committed, perhaps, and they're more engaged. And all that means a healthier, better performing business in the market. A very interesting aspect at Userlane is that we have already this empowerment or empowering others as a principle. And once I saw it on the list of principles, I thought it's actually a very strong message coming from the founders to have this as one of our core principles, because it's not you cannot take it for granted. It's not that it's everywhere that the C-level are considering empowerment as a core principle of the company. And as I mentioned, with the amazing people that we have, you feel connected to people. And once you feel connected, you care more. And this also fosters this feeling of wanting to empower. So it's not just for leaders, for their team. Rather, I feel like that at Userlane, we have this feeling of empowering each other, regardless of your hierarchy or your position.